Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. Truly, truly a happy Monday. We are joined tonight by Sam, and we are Sam the History Man, I think is what I dubbed you as in the description.
Oh, please
We're
tell
gonna,
me.
we're going to be talking duels. I thought we just had Taylor Weber on, who is a fantastic MMA fighter and judo black belt. We did a really interesting, and sambist as well, did a really interesting interview with him on Saturday. Go check that out. It's the last live stream. It's really cool. It was kind of a little bit of a change of pace for the show, but I'm such a big martial arts fan, and it really does fit into Old West history to understand where the sport that is popular today came from. I was kind of making the point, Sam, that it's like 30 years ago, if you told me that the MMA was going to be on the White House lawn, I would have said that you were insane. It was really kind of frowned upon in larger society.
Well, they tried to block it. The judge tried to block it, and
they really did.
Unsurprisingly, but it's.
Hey, Coach Holtz, Ben Mediana, good to see you. I emailed Coach Holtz, but I think he was busy on Saturday for the MMA interview. But the MMA interview led me to tonight's subject of duels, one-on-one duels, or kind of, I guess largely one-on-one duels. That the Wild West is really associated with maybe more closely than any era in history, or certainly I would say there's no era in history that's more closely associated with one-on-one duels than the Wild West. But really, there was kind of just one that's recorded, at least in Wild West history. I've done an episode on it. I want to kind of touch on it, rehash it, maybe promote it a little bit. I'm going to put a link for that in the description. And then we're going to talk about how, despite the Old West's almost dearth of one-on-one duels, the one-on-one duel in history, and Sam, we've talked about this before, is not that uncommon for a number of reasons. And there's a lot of really cool stories that are behind that. So we're going to talk about the Wild Bill Hickok shootout. Then we're going to talk about some of Sam's favorite duels and the overarching theme of one-on-one combat in history. And then we want to hear what your guys' favorite duels are. Let me know in the comments, and we'll tie all that together at the end and take your chats and questions, and we'll just have a jolly good time as we normally do. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in the chat. I'm going to jump into the story that I've done an episode on before, the Springfield shootout in 1865. It occurred between Wild Bill Hickok and what's the guy's name again? Sorry, you get shot, and if you're the loser, it's easier to forget your name. Wild Bill.
Nobody remembers you.
Yeah, history really is written by the victors. But Davis Tutt and Wild Bill Hickok get into a gambling argument, and this is like a classic tale for sure. It's a drinking town. Springfield, Missouri is right on the banks of the Mississippi. It becomes a gambling and drinking hub for soldiers that are just getting out of the army. We've just kind of wrapped up the Civil War. We've really kind of gone through a pretty tumultuous period in American history with the unaliving of one of our presidents, and so we're just in a bit of a national tizzy in the time period that this story occurs. But they get into this gambling debt. I think it is Wild Bill gets down a few bucks, well, a substantial sum, right? He's down pretty hard to Davis Tutt, and he says, like, I'm going to bring you the money, and Tutt says, yeah, whatever. And that night, Tutt is caught on the Courtyard Square, which is like, we see them today, and they're kind of like ramshackle Old West squares. No, it's like the Las Vegas Strip, but like a little tiny Las Vegas Strip with like just as many sinful elements, I guess we could say. So you got, schmostitutes, I guess we could call them. We got gambling, we got drinking, we got all kinds of stuff. So it's just a bunch of trouble happening on a town square. Tutt is down there on the town square getting hammered, having a good time, showing off this watch and saying, I'm going to keep this watch. Wild Bill hears about this. Wild Bill is like a couple sheets to the wind already. He marches down to town square, calls out Davis Tutt. There's varying accounts of exactly how this happened. Davis Tutt goes to draw his weapon on Wild Bill. Wild Bill gets the first shot off. Boom. Tutt is like pretty much down off the first shot. Wild Bill gets his pocket watch back. He doesn't seem like he really loved doing this. Like, it kind of shook him up a touch, but he liked the notoriety that he got from it. But, that became kind of the archetype that we judge all Old West showdowns by. There's a really good Western called The Quick and the Dead. I think it's a Louis L'Amour book as well. Somebody can let me know in the chat. I'm a big Louis L'Amour fan, but I'm blanking on that right now. A whole movie, though, based around, and a whole book, I guess, based around this theme of the greatest shootists of the West coming together in kind of this round robin or whatever, winner take all tournament where the greatest duelist wins. And it's all based around largely a cultural misunderstanding or really kind of a Hollywood lie that these happened all the time. There were other instances of likely duels. I'm reading a book about Joaquin Murrieta, kind of foreshadowing for a topic to come. Murrieta's maybe not the nicest guy. I lived in California. I grew up in the area that he was frequenting, and I was always told that he was kind of maltreated and forced to kind of this life of banditry. Maybe that's true. But he's also not the nicest guy in the world, right? But there's a couple instances of California, Alta California, Mexico, very early California, where especially Mexican citizens at the time would duel by wrapping a big like bear skin around their arm as a shield and then fighting it out with Bowie knives, but it wasn't always fatal. And the times that they did find the loser, there was no record of the fight. So, largely, there's one other instance where Kit Carson heard this big fat French guy at the Rendezvous, the yearly get-together, talking mess about there's various accounts about what he was talking about. Some say he was putting down Carson's girl. Some say he was just drunk and being a problem. Some say he called out Carson personally. Either way, Carson, it's hard not to like this guy. He says, okay, we'll get on your horse and we'll have a shootout. And Carson gets on his horse and pulls out his firearm, and they have a full like medieval joust with pistols. It's pretty cool. But Carson shoots at him. He hits him in the wrist. Chouinard is the big fat French guy's name. Falls off his horse, or at least submits and says, I don't want any more. But that's not fatal either. But those are really kind of the only instances of this one-on-one duel in the history of the Old West. Certainly, there's other instances in like the 19th century of duels for honor, like Andrew Jackson. You know about Andrew Jackson, like his wife at the time?
I know he fought a bunch of duels, but I do not remember the context.
Are you familiar? You know the term 304? Does everybody in the chat know the term 304?
I do not.
It is a YouTube safe term for describing a loose woman, let's say, because if you type in 304 on if you type in 304 on a calculator, it spells HOE, which annoys me because that is not the correct spelling for the term. That's the garden.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get you.
But it is the term. It's the term regardless. So they would call Jackson's wife a 304. Apparently about 200 times they did this. And he said, my wife is not a 304. And he pulls out his firearm and they duel. But not always. Doesn't seem like very many of them were to the fatal end. That is all to say that this is an incredibly rare instance, even in American history. But Sam and I were talking about this earlier, and we've talked about this before. It's not necessarily a unique thing in world history.
No. You there's different ways you can kind of classify duels too, though, and this makes some kind of distinctions here. Because you have instances of single combat that kind of take place in the midst of a larger battle, right? That's relatively, I don't know if common is the right word, but you see a lot of instances of that. And then there's
like two guys just randomly seeing each other on the battlefield.
Yes. And some of those are very famous. Some of those become very famous, and so that's something that happens. The other thing that happens, that there is this kind of just like there are things in the Old West that are romanticized. One of the things that's very romantic, that's very Hollywoodized about the Middle Ages, is the idea of trial by combat or trial by ordeal or something like that. And that said, there are a there are some instances of things like that happening historically. They were pretty rare, but they did happen as either as kind of to solve some kind of dispute, usually involving property. Between the courts could not decide. If you had a certain status too, you might have the right to kind of my honor was insulted. I have the right to defend my honor.
But if you're a peasant, you're not going like
no.
in general terms. You can't challenge a nobleman about your honor.
No, you don't have honor. You're a peasant.
Thanks, man.
It's just the perception anyway. But no, those do happen. They're a pretty rare occurrence because typically kings and lords were not like thrilled about the idea of two of their vassals dueling over some dispute. Usually there's going to be an attempt beforehand to kind of like mediate some kind of solution or get one party to admit that they're wrong or something.
Does he know that are these necessarily fatal battles? Like he's for sure going to use one of his vassals?
Some no, not necessarily. A lot of times people, but rather than die, they're going to surrender in the midst of. Now the surrender means that they are going to be seen as guilty in the eyes of by the law, and sometimes that means their property is forfeit. Sometimes that means they're but duels to the death are relatively rare. You do get a very famous example that they actually made a movie about. They made a book and a movie about the movie. This is one of the last Ridley Scott movies that was actually
Ridley Scott, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The Last Duel, which does a pretty good job of I don't know. I liked the movie overall, but it was a movie that doesn't necessarily leave you feeling good about its conclusion.
I've seen the fight scene, and it is brutal. It is really brutal.
And the backstory that this is a real thing that happened. This is one of the in kind of this later period of when these kind of things happened. A French knight accuses another French knight, and I'm going to try to look up their names because I don't remember off the top of my head, of raping his wife. Graping his wife.
And men graping.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and I gotta remember the YouTube rules.
It's tough, right?
It's tough. I don't think about it. I just talk, right? So why can't I find it?
But the French are a hot-blooded people. It doesn't surprise me.
And there was a trial, and the trial could not determine whether whether it had actually happened, whether the graping had actually happened or not.
Right.
The guy who was accused of it claimed it was consensual, and they had an affair, right? Which was not uncommon.
Now he's going, I'm really going to have to duel hard.
Yeah. But they ended up, after not being able to to decide it in a trial, they had a duel, and the guy who had made the accusation did win. So, and killed his opponent in the duel.
But that's
spoiler alert. If you go watch the movie, that is how it is.
Oh, it's kind of history, brutal. It is really a visceral scene. It is, yeah.
Well, it's a good movie Duel because it shows the kind of brutality of armored combat, right? We like to kind of romanticize the armored knight and such, but the reality is, especially like once you get to having plate armor, it's really difficult to harm somebody who's wearing plate armor.
You're gonna have to be really close.
Really difficult. Well, the weapons of that era just were not capable of doing it for the most part. So basically, what a lot of combat came down to, especially if it was one-on-one combat. Now, typically in a battle, you wouldn't be one-on-one. You'd have guys backing you up to help this process. Would be one guy wrestling the other to the ground and then grabbing a dagger and plunging the dagger through,
right,
either through a gap or like taking off their helmet and or whatnot. And that's kind of that's not easy. There's a lot more rolling around in the mud than you kind of think of in your romanticized picture of the kind of the medieval knight.
To me, it's evocative of like World War I, or maybe World War I trench fighting is evocative of that. But it's such an up close affair, and it necessitates such a brutal, no pun intended, but execution of the act. It's like it's not fast, and it's very. I'm sure it sticks with the survivor.
And so a lot of times you had specialized daggers that were kind of basically made for that, to be that the what you would keep on this little dagger on you, to be that final instrument in a battle.
Right?
What?
It's kind of a shank. It's like a they're kind of long and pointed. They're not cutting. They're just for stabbing. It's called a rondel usually. But yeah, like those were that was brutal. Now my favorite duels in history, if you're going to ask me, that's a good example of one. But if you're going to ask me, like, are we talking like strictly history that we kind of know, things we really know happened, or no, I think we can open it up. Give the chat a little
borderline mythology in history, right? Because you get some of the best duels and accounts of duels in the Three Kingdoms era in China, probably in all of history. In part of my preparation for this have this talk, I was looking up lists of duels, and I got to China. It's like basically half the list for China is the Three Kingdoms era.
Sam knows his stuff with China too.
I just love the Three Kingdoms.
Essentially wholly ignorant when it comes to the history of China.
It's a fascinating topic, but in the Three Kingdoms era, you've got a lot of duels, some of which are pretty much for sure. They both, there's the fictionalized accounts, and that they actually line up with kind of what the more historic accounts. A lot of the history of the Three Kingdoms era, there's a couple of like primary sources of people who were typically writing about it like directly after it happened, but those who were doing that were also under the employ of the faction that ended up basically winning the conflict.
Sure.
So they had to kind of portray certain things much more positively than others.
You got to sell it a little bit.
Then you get the very famous novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which was originally an opera, but it will or I think it was I don't remember if it was a novel first or an opera first, but like a Chinese opera. It's a very long, almost like it's like an epic play, right?
What time period is this approximately?
I do not remember when Romance of the Three Kingdoms was written. The Three Kingdoms era in China.
Three Kingdoms, yeah.
I am going to look that up because
I'll do it so we don't have to.
So it's about 220 to 280 AD.
Oh, very early. Okay.
Yeah. So this is very early. This is during the height of Rome, right? This is the fall of the Han Dynasty in China. The Han Dynasty kind of falls apart, and the land gets split up into basically this is what happens very typically in Chinese history when the dynastic cycle changes. That kind of splits into feudal warlords essentially take control of their territory.
We even see that happen with the Mongols, right?
Until one of them is strong enough basically to oust all their rivals. And sometimes, and the Three Kingdoms era kind of devolved into this stalemate involving three different warlords who all kind of seized large swaths of China, and there was a kind of an ongoing stalemate for about 50 years. So
how did Three Kingdoms, I'm sure there's an answer for this, but how did Three Kingdoms end up with a lot of duels? It seems like It'd be easier to have a bunch of duels with 2, obviously.
The Three Kingdoms, well,
usually you see one power coalesce with
there's a lot of it doesn't immediately go into like the Three Kingdoms era is kind of when people say the Three Kingdoms era, right? It's only the relatively like final part of that era where you actually get the Three Kingdoms. Prior to that, it's kind of there's a lot of different warlords who have seized power. You get the kind of as the Han Dynasty breaks apart. It starts off. There's a basically a big religious movement. It sparks a rebellion called the Yellow Turban Rebellion or the Yellow Scarves Rebellion, depending on. I think they call it Yellow Scarves now because it's got to be more politically correct than.
I was going to call you out for that, but okay, we'll let it go.
I back when I was reading about this, they called it the Yellow Turban Rebellion, and so it was a kind of a religious movement that ended up with a peasant kind of uprising. You had the court had been kind of taken over by a set of corrupt eunuchs that were kind of ruling. Guys. I know, yeah, this is a problem, and so the in the midst of that corruption, there's kind of this peasant rebellion, which ends up getting quelled, but the aftermath of that then leads directly into another tyrant taking over. So in order to kind of oust the eunuchs from power, you get the rise of Dong Zhuo, who is a warlord from the kind of Xiliang territory. Is it a territory that's kind of on the border of China and not quite where Mongolia is today, but the kind of historic, you know, they were the group of they were kind of the border people in China. They had a lot of skirmishes with the kind of nomadic tribes. So they were kind of a military. China? Yeah, they were in when it would have been north. It's hard to like. Okay, so the issue with claiming where it is because modern day China is a lot more territory than historically China would have been.
Oh, okay.
So it would have been in the north west of Han Dynasty China. But he comes with his army to kind of like, and he seizes power to ostensibly to kind of deal with the eunuchs. But he ends up becoming a tyrant, and then there's basically a coalition of other regional lords to oppose him. They mostly do successfully. And this, I'm giving you the bare minimum bullet points of this very long story, but pretty much after that, immediately like there is no Han Dynasty anymore. Really, the Han Emperor, the imperial court is in disarray. The control of the territory has basically shifted away from the kind of imperial government to just the regional warlords, and then all of these different warlords basically try to kind of consolidate their power, forming larger kingdoms, and fighting amongst
after
themselves.
Rome or the fall of any other empire.
Yes, yeah. This is kind of what happens after the fall of Rome. Is you have the different barbarian tribes and then basically the larger ones absorb the smaller ones into becoming the kind of the modern kingdoms of Europe. You know,
and you just saying the Chinese version of this.
This is the Chinese version of that happening
earlier. Yeah,
and but during this time period, it's a unique period in history because you get the emergence of the kind of like exceptional people who only typically come like once in 100 years. But for whatever reason, you get like 20 of them all in the same 50-year period.
Yeah.
And they're not on the same side.
And that would be almost a miracle if they were. But, just their existence in a time period, in a consolidated time period, means there's going to be big change.
So you get this kind of, it was a period of heroes. And this is a very important time period in kind of Chinese national identity even today, and not just Chinese, by the way. That's Korean, Japanese, any of the kind of civilizations that come out of China. This is a period of time that they study in school in Korea and in Japan, as well, because there's a lot of very famous. It's a lot of I kind of liken it a lot to the Arthurian folklore in some ways. That it's there's more history in the Three Kingdoms era than there is in the Arthurian folklore, but it's kind of the same level of it's kind of the same level of like cultural significance that has to kind of English speaking civilization later.
Which I think we don't understand now how important that is, how important it was, is certainly for the people that were hearing those stories, during that time. It was so important to have heroes and to have stories that inspired.
If you read a lot of Japanese literature, you'll recognize that they make like Three Kingdoms is used as metaphors, like metaphors it's very commonly. So like somebody who is wily like Cao Cao, like a wily fox like Cao Cao, right? Or a virtuous person might be likened to to Guan Yu or something,
like we would in America with our founding father, like, oh, he's as eccentric as Ben Franklin or as stalwart as George Washington.
And you see that like in literature and such a lot. That's very common. Even just in normal speaking, that's kind of some of these things are so, they've become common expressions,
right?
In their vernacular, right? I mean, it's in the same way with the as weird as I liken it to like the Arthurian folklore, because we do the same thing with some of that, like the Round Table or the Sword and the Stone. There are certain kind of like concepts that kind of the Round Table being one of the best, right? Is the idea that the king is the first among equals, not seated above everybody else. Is a very uniquely idea that comes uniquely out of kind of the Anglosphere, the kind of English speaking.
It's introduced and can only really foster within that tradition. Yeah.
Yes, and so it's part of our mythology. But in the Three Kingdoms era, you get some great historic duels, and some of which are kind of more fictionless, and some of which are for sure happen. I take the opinion that time periods like this, unless there's a conflicting account to like what the mythology kind of said, like, or what the kind of the more mythologized version of it says. I think the mythologized version is probably close to true in many cases, unless there's an actual reason to doubt it.
I agree with that wholeheartly. Yes.
So you during this time period, right? You get some of the just great warriors. One of whom ends up, this is probably going to be one of my favorites, becomes later personified as a Taoist god, as just Guan Yu, right? And it was a real historic figure. And there's a famous within the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. There's a famous kind of scene. There's this coalition that's been put together to oppose the tyrant Dong Zhuo, who's kind of taken over the imperial court and is basically ruling like a tyrant, and he's like, so these local lords have kind of put together an army to oppose him. They've assembled their army, and they're met by Dong Zhuo's army, and commanding the vanguard of Dong Zhuo's army is a warrior called Hua Zhang. And Hua Zhang comes out and like challenges, send me your best warrior.
We're talking 2 battle lines, and he rides out in front and says, "Who you got?"
And it's like before the battle has actually like officially begun.
Yeah.
They're they set up the lines, and they're all kind of shouting at each other at this point. So one of the several of the lords who have their armies assembled volunteered their best warrior to go out and fight Hua Zhang. And Hua Zhang kills, I think, 2 or 3 of them before finally Guan Yu steps up. And Guan Yu was had come with his sworn brother, Just like you may have seen that there's plenty of versions of Sworn Brotherhood in history. I don't need to get into that.
Yeah, there's a lot of tribes that have something similar.
Yeah. So his sworn brother Liu Bei, who Liu Bei was a very small time magistrate to be kind of part of this coalition, but he was technically of the imperial family. Like even he was a distant cousin of the emperor, so he was allowed to kind of be in the coalition. But was given a seat at the very end of this like illustrious panel of lords. But Guan Yu who volunteers to go fight Huazhang.
And just to clarify, this is like an old school UFC situation where it's like fight after fight after fight. You might have several fights in one night. So he's had several duels already.
Yeah. But Huazhang has anyway. But at least, but he kind of he won all of them very easily. Like they did not even last. I think the I don't think any of them before Guan Yu lasted even like a single like only a couple exchanges because it'd be done on horseback typically.
Just a streak of first round KOs leading up to this.
He just and so what the point is everybody had seen this guy beat at least I can't remember if it was 2 or 3.
But he's mowing dudes down. Mowing dudes down.
Yep. Big guy from the frontier, spent his life fighting against the nomadic raiders, a true warrior, right? Brother. Yeah. And so Guan Yu steps up to go challenge him. And they a lot of the lords think, well, he's gonna go die, but but it's not, but they let him do it because there's no skin off our our back if he perishes. They offer him they warm up some wine to offer him to before and he says, just save it for me when I get back. Nice move. So he rides out and kills Huazhang basically in a single blow. Right.
And what does you said he had like a handler, kind of the unpopular.
His sworn brother, right, who becomes one of the kings of the 3 kingdoms later.
He's a little bit of a devious cat. He's kind of like a bear.
So Liu Bei is the 3 kingdoms are the Wei kingdom in the north, which is established by Cao Cao, Cao Cao is the kind of characterized as was very ambitious but very cunning as well, and he achieved a lot of his rule through. I mean, he was a brilliant ruler and a brilliant tactician, but he was ruthless.
I was going to say like an LBJ, but LBJ is not really a brilliant tactician. But ruthless.
Cao Cao was actually a brilliant tactician. Yeah, it was brilliant strategist. And so Liu Bei was a guy who, at least who never really wanted power, but kind of reluctantly assumes it because the Han Dynasty is falling and somebody needs to defend the Han Dynasty. And he is technically a from a branch family of the imperial family. So he was, he grew up a pauper. He did not have wealth. He did not have, his family lineage basically meant that he had a good education. And that's basically the extent of his kind of upbringing.
Which isn't nothing, but nobility doesn't mean in our context that he grew up in a palace. And you see the same thing in Europe as well, right? Where it's like there's
he came from a branch. Yeah, he came from a branch of the family that had long since basically been become irrelevant.
But he has leveraged what he does have into this position. Okay.
Yeah, and so he has this oath of brotherhood he has with 2 great warriors, Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. They famously swear an oath in the peach garden. In a peach garden, that's another. You'll see the oath in the peach garden is another very. You'll see that in literature, in Chinese literature, and
it's kind of part of their cultural vernacular.
It's a big part of their cultural vernacular now because it's a very famous thing that happened. Is they swear that though we were born on different days, we will die on the same day at the same time. And
like ease up a little bit, guys.
Yeah, and he raises an army initially to fight against the Yellow Turbans during the rebellion, because it was not a peaceful religious uprising. It evolved very quickly into banditry and pillaging and armed
It's
insurrection.
almost never a peaceful uprising.
Yeah,
but you were saying this separated at this point into 3 kingdoms.
not at this point. There's a bunch of different would be warlords at this point. But this is kind of one of those things that establishes the kind of Liu Bei as kind of his ascendancy in the 3 kingdoms is starts from this very early moment through the kind of the martial feats of his officers of Guan Yu and Zhang Fei. Later in that campaign against Dong Zhuo, they fight. There's another great warrior among Dong Zhuo's generals is Lu Bu, and Lu Bu is considered by all to be the greatest warrior alive
at the time.
At the time, bar none. Was
an Achilles kind of character.
Was the Achilles of their era, just beating everybody. Nobody could stand against him. And for the most, and nobody did. In the field, he was like, as a warrior, he was just unbeatable. Right? And so later on, when they are the coalition army is advancing again on Dong Zhuo, on the capital, they're met. So the vanguard's which was led by Hua Xiong, had been defeated, but now here's Lu Bu, and nobody can stand against Lu Bu. He is just beating everybody. And there is a video. I'm going to respond to. They did make there's a series of video games, actually multiple series of video games based on the 3 Kingdoms. Dynasty Warriors is the kind of series that people might be familiar with.
Also, I see a bunch of chat rolling in. I just have to concentrate. If I don't concentrate on the Chinese names that Sam is pouring out, I will completely lose my focus.
Their second nature. See, I stumbled onto Dynasty Warriors in a video rental store when I was like 12.
Right, I feel like that's been around for a long time.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
That was Dynasty Warriors 3, by the way. So I mean, I think we're on Dynasty Warriors 12 now, but I could be. I don't know.
It's like that's what I call music. It's on like now that's what I call music 43, and I'm like, oh man, I was around for number 2.
Yeah, and but by all like real historic accounts too, Lu Bu was just unbeatable in person. And so the Lu Bu again is at the head of the army. He's just bashing people left and right. Nobody can stand against him. The coalition army is about ready to break and run. When again, so Zhang Fei then was another one of Liu Bei's sworn brothers. Rides up, and he and Lu Bu start going back and forth. But Lu Bu starts getting the better of him. So Guan Yu then has to go to assist Zhang Fei, and the 2 of them are fighting against Lu Bu. And 2-on-1, Lu Bu is still winning. Still winning. But finally, when Liu Bei then joins the fight as well, 3-on-1, they successfully force him back. They don't defeat him.
Oh, they just kind of push him back.
They just force him back, which it allows the kind of coalition to rally. Lu Bu does not get defeated in the field. he gets outfoxed eventually.
But you lose by an inch, you lose by a mile. You just don't want to lose.
Yeah. So they managed to do enough in this coalition though to kind of force Dong Zhuo. He has to abandon the capital. Then they kind of the enemies of Dong Zhuo, they decide that he can't be beaten militarily. The coalition kind of tried. They assembled this massive army to go fight against him, and while it had some successes, it ultimately failed. Ultimately the coalition fractured, and there was a lot of differing opinions among the lords about who was in charge and who should be in charge, So
does Lu Bu kind of have the most pull for who should be in charge?
Well, Lu Bu he's Dong Zhuo's general, right? And so in order to kind of deal with Dong Zhuo, there's a plot that happens basically to pit Lu Bu and Dong Zhuo against each other. And so they using a dancer
Very Machiavellian.
by the name of Diao Chan, who's the daughter of a minister, the adopted daughter of a minister, but she's a known beautiful famous dancer, and she basically agrees to be involved in this plot to seduce both men and pit them against each other.
Lu Bu is like the original Eric Swalwell. You guys know that?
And Lu Bu had been was the adopted son of Dong Zhuo at this point,
Real quick question. When you're saying that he's defeating the other three, is that in a one-on-one combat before the battle, or is that in the midst
it's kind of in the midst of the battle, right? Okay. So and that's the way a lot of these things kind of happened historically is that if you have two kind of great warriors, you could just call it, especially if you kind of, you recognize, I know so-and-so, they're a skilled warrior, then you kind of call them out in the middle of a battle. And sometimes you'd even get basically there'd be an opening to let the two warriors fight, right? It was while everyone else kind of just stood by and watched.
And are these ever used as kind of like in the movie Troy? It's used as kind of like they're one-man proxy forces where it's like, can we avoid this battle by having these two fight it out?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes that does happen, but in the midst of a battle, sometimes it's you might kind of clear and back up, everyone else kind of might stop fighting for a minute to kind of watch the results of the battle, because basically whoever wins, right, is going to their side is going to get a pretty substantial morale boost. That might mean the other side just breaks and runs. It's they beat our best guy. I'm not our best guy, so I don't stand a chance against this guy. And
we've talked about before how in ancient warfare, historical warfare, how important morale was. Mm-hmm. If you break morale, you always win.
And this is kind of why there's a you see in ancient societies the protection of the martial class by the society. Even though oftentimes the people in the martial, like this kind of martial class, are disasters. They have disastrous personal lives. So they're kind of things are done to basically mitigate that, because you need them in the midst of the battle. Because in the midst of the battle, when you get to a battle itself, right? The reason that you don't have this in modern combat is because modern combat is not as psychologically strenuous as ancient combat,
because of the proximity,
the proximity, the physicality of it. It's the force multiplier of a gun is way higher than the force multiplier of a sword or a spear, or anything else, right? All weapons are essentially force multipliers. They reduce the purpose of a weapon is to reduce the amount of force it requires to inflict lethal harm.
A soldier himself is a force multiplier. It can be. I mean, a forces operator is definitionally you can do the work of 10, 12 soldiers.
That's true. But weapons have kind of gotten to a point now where the force multiplier is so high that there isn't that what's happened is that combat is no longer as psychologically or physically strenuous as it used to be.
Let me just real quick play devil's advocate there. It is more extended, maybe, or more frequent, lower level intensity, but a more higher in frequency.
It depends on the conflict, right? I think you could say that, but low frequency, but high frequency, low intensity though it produces a different level of stress than a single very extreme instance.
I would say the 20-year war on terror versus the Battle of Hastings.
Yes, exactly.
Well, those are different.
Yeah. They're different, and people in modern combat do break and run. Mm-hmm. It happens, even on our side. it's less frequent, partially because, again, it's just less psychologically strenuous. And I'm not trying to diss on soldiers or veterans or anything. I really don't mean that. But I'm just saying, like, you can study this. This is something that, you know, we can study how this works. The way that kind of plays with your son, like it takes a lot more building yourself up to get involved in a melee than it does to kind of stand at 100 yards away and shoot at someone. Like it's a lot less, like it's a lot easier to get people to you know, stand at a distance and fire, right? Than it is, like, you know, go put a bayonet, you know, go hack somebody with the bayonet, right?
Go pull this knight off of his horse and use your dagger. It's much more experience.
And it's a lot more physically strenuous, right? Because you think about it, no matter pretty much how good you are at fighting, right? How many people could you realistically cut down in a melee?
It's a small number.
Before like exhaustion overwhelms you. You know?
Imagine your best UFC fighter today. Well, how many comparably sized men could they really fight off in a row? Maybe it's 20, but I got hundreds of guys.
Yeah. And it might be 20. And it's and like there are plenty of examples of
it could
warriors who, like, you know, who yeah. But eventually there's gonna be a number you hit where you just physically can't go anymore.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And except for those rare people who don't have the same kind of psychological inhibitions that everybody else has.
And to be frank, physiological makeup.
Yeah, physiological makeup as well. It's like you get a combination of like psychological characteristics and physiological characteristics that allow somebody to just be that warrior who can just, like, you know, stand at the head of 1,000 guys and just wade into the enemy and not have any, and just do it. You know,
you're talking about an infinitesimally small percentage of the overall population.
Infinitesimally small percentage of the population, because again, you have to have somebody who's both like psychologically able to do that, physically able to do that,
and recover,
and is not so disturbed that you can't use them, right? And it's like you can't just, you know, there have been serial killers and things like that, like throughout history, right? It's like, but you can't. It's hard to recruit those people into your army.
You know, when we're done with this, I'll ask your opinion on Gilles de Rais, because that's an interesting case study in the martial class and how it might hide. We talked about the difference between sociopaths and psychopaths. I don't know whether he was either, but certainly a case of, if he was guilty, I believe he confessed to being guilty, but confessed under torture. So I don't want to speak with absolute certainty on that. But a case of violent criminality hiding within medieval military ranks.
Oh yeah, definitely happens. And I don't know how widespread it is, but it definitely happens.
No, probably
because,
not.
Again, you're dealing with like this set of characteristics, right? And eventually you're going to get somebody who veers onto the extreme of one of these. That's just kind of how it works.
But even in those populations, I think you'd agree too. It's like, even in that infinitesimally small population, an infinitesimally small percentage of that small population is doing that. But the point stands: they're dangerous people.
The point stands, and if you were a king, right, you know, and you have any kind of, even if you don't have ambitions to go to war with your neighbors, right? It's like, well, you might need to go to war with your neighbors because your neighbors might come to war with you, right? And so. Yeah. You have to kind of protect those few people you have who are able to do that, because this is what's so interesting psychologically about humans, right? Is if there's the one guy who can like without fear just like wade into the you know, rush through the breach and like you know, wade into the mess of enemies, 1,000 other guys watching will go after them. Go after him, right? That's kind of how humans work. And it's like there's a very much like, like we can follow Achilles into battle. And
that's why Achilles is really so valuable. He's not that valuable because he can unalive one guy on the other side.
No, he's valuable because 1,000 other people are willing to fight and potentially die.
That's really what I meant by that guy is a force multiplier.
Yeah, and this is a kind of a weird thing that in the Three Kingdoms are in China, where you get like 20 of the greatest warriors in like 1,000 years, and you also get like another 20 people who are like brilliant strategists and tacticians, and for some reason they all are born around the same time, and they all have to, and some of them actually lamented that they were born the same time as these other people, right?
That's a Chinese proverb, right? Like a curse that you live in interesting times.
Zhou Yu was a strategist for the Wu Kingdom, famously lamented after, I think it was after the Battle of Chibi, after the Battle of Red Cliffs. He lamented, gods, why would you make Kong Ming, who was then an ally of his, but it was another a strategist working for the Shu Kingdom. Why would you make Kong Ming when you had already made me, Zhou Yu? Right? Like, I would have been unparalleled in this generation if you had not. Like,
we already have Coke. We don't need Pepsi.
Yeah. So he famously lamented that it was like, I would have been the greatest military strategist of this age, had it not been for this one other guy.
It's his Ali, like he's Frazier, and you're like, if not for Ali, I'd be.
And that's kind of, except it's skinny. You get like 20 of these people, all crammed into this time period, and it's a crazy time period because of that.
I mean, you can look at Pentecost, you can look at the French Revolution, the American Revolution. It's like anytime you get this real concentration of big players and pivotal people, it's a major change ensues, like a world-changing change.
There was a Chinese, it was either Chinese or might have been from the Hong Kong era. There was a television show that they made about this. Like, it's in Chinese, but it's dubbed. At one point, it was on YouTube. I don't know if it still is. But anyone who wants to go learn more about this can go watch that. It's a pretty decent.
What's the title of it?
It's like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, I think. I'm gonna see if it still is on here.
The Romance of the Three Kings.
The Three Kingdoms.
Oh yeah, we got this
Three Kingdoms, 1994. Yeah. You can if you put Romance, you like 1994 was a 1994 TV series. Yep, that's it. You can find it. I think you can find the whole thing on YouTube now. And that's a pretty
2 beers deep. That's a hell of a watch.
Yeah, it is in Chinese. It's in Mandarin, I believe.
Some subs on, some subtitles are good.
And it's like not super. It was a pretty high budget for this time. It was in the 90s, but it was in the 90s, so it's like you're not getting the special effects and stuff that you get later, but the costumes are generally pretty good. And
it's covering this era, or is it covering a specific battle?
It's following specifically the novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, right? So it kind of, which to be fair, starts at the Yellow Turban Rebellion and goes all the way through the fall of the end of the Three Kingdoms era, and it's kind of following the major characters of it. So
Lu Bu and
Lu Bu, Cao Cao, but yeah, and it's a pretty. I've watched a lot of it. I think I stopped watching after you get to the Battle of Red Cliffs, because it's kind of like, the story gets sad after that.
I'll do that. Yeah, I do that. If I know where the sad part's coming, it's like, why am I going to subject?
You kind of know at a certain, if you know the history, you kind of know at a certain point of things.
I'll do it once, but like even when we watched the Alamo, I was like, we don't really have to watch this all the way to the end. We know how this is one of the most famous stories in the world of how this thing ends. But
there's also a movie, Red Cliff, about the Battle of Red Cliff, Battle of Chibi. That's pretty good as well. If you could, I want to do that one for one of our movie nights.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
It's a great, you know, it's a mix of like a kung fu movie and a like a martial arts movie and a historic movie. So
I have enough trouble commenting on videos or movies that are in English though, so that'll be a 2-person job for sure.
I'll definitely be there for that. I will 100% be there. But it's pretty good. It's hard to find the overseas release version of that, which is you can find the theatrical, like the American theatrical release version a lot easier, but there's a longer version that is a little bit more difficult to find. That is it's first of all longer, and then the second of all, it's like they kind of change some of the way they did the subtitles in the American theatrical release. They removed some of the references that people not familiar with the time period wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Right. And they just, but there's certain period, there's like, it really irritates me because I'm a nerd, right? There will be times when I know what they're saying. It's not the words that what they're putting on here.
Yeah.
There's one of the scenes that really pisses me off where like Cao Cao is looking at a map and he's listing off all of the warlords that he's defeated and outlasted at this point. And like he's about to lose this big battle, which is undoes his ambition, You
don't want to mess this part up.
But he's like he can't believe that he's about to lose this battle. And like he's kind of in this like giving this speech, like he's like looking at this map, like listing these warlords that he's defeated, and that's not what it actually says in the subtitles, which really irritates me.
When it's that consequential, it should though.
Yeah. It says something like I've outlasted every warlord, every I've endured everything. But what he's actually saying is listing them by name, and they don't put that in the subtitles because they assume that Americans aren't going to know.
All right, yeah, but like it does change the point of it though, doesn't it? He's kind of bringing together.
He's not being like he's being specific. He's being
right.
So yeah. It's
the difference between saying I've won every fight up till now and then going back to my Fraser analogy, and it would be better to list out and more precise and specific to say I beat every opponent up till now, and I'm trying to think of everybody that he's beat, but
yeah, and it's this kind of, but yeah
So was this a time period that's like particularly replete with duels, or
yes, it's a lot of them. Has a lot of them again because you get like all of these legendary warriors that all kind of emerge in the same time period, and they're all on different sides of these conflicts, but many of them actually have a lot of respect for each other. So they have you get these duels that happen in the course of these battles or beforehand. A lot of times, again, like before the battle actually starts, you might have like, whoever kind of is the vanguard leader, like come out and like issue an open challenge, right? You issue the challenge, like, if you win, you win that challenge, like you're gonna inspire your guys and you're gonna demoralize the enemy, right? So that's kind of a thing that happens.
There's several intertribal native battles that I talk about. We got bunches of episodes where we talk about this exact. I don't know if we can call it a phenomenon, but this exact tactic happening again and again for the Blackfoot had no idea about the 3 dynasties in China, but they understood morale the same that the Chinese would have. And it's like the same purpose. If I can beat this guy one-on-one, if I can call him out and beat him, my guys our chances are greatly improved. Let's say that.
And this is the thing that happened historically. That's why part of why you see it in mythology is because it's a thing that happened in history. You know,
And it
like
was-
it's not, you know, it's not just in mythology and not actually in real history either. It is like this is a duels are one of those interesting things that kind of blurs the line between history and mythology.
Sure.
Because you see like the
Old West is no different with that, really.
it is
Same
and the Old West, I think the reason the Old West has such a place within the kind of American mind, you know, like it's because it is our history. Like we don't have history really that predates that. We have very little.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of taken the place for us of the romanticization of other older times in history.
It's kind of all we got. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. It's just like, well, our history does not go back thousands of years. We're kind of just pulling from what we have.
Yeah, what you'll see in 50 years from now, you'll see, well, maybe 100 years from now. So I mean, the United States is still around, which is it's questionable at times. All right, but you'll see the same kind of things happen with like the. I mean, you've already seen with the World Wars, but that's a unique thing that sort of like it happens. You see the kind of romanticization of the World Wars in
hugely, yeah.
Although way more with World War II than World War One. In fact, almost exclusively. You almost never see romanticization of World War One.
Almost, if for nothing else, and I understand there's many other reasons, but it is very, very, very difficult to romanticize World War One. Very difficult.
It's very difficult, and it's also, and you see it with World War II because it's become the dominant cultural narrative for the last 100 years.
Yeah.
And I think you're actually going to see a lot less of it in the future.
Yeah, I think so. I think our society is too cynical for it.
Well, I think you're going to get. Well, no, it's because I think what people have realized is that there's a lot of the, you know, a lot of the narrative just isn't correct. You know,
well, and also you can't prop up. There used to be a division where you could kind of create lore around leaders, and like you can't now. Like you used to be able to create lore around, let's say, Jimi Hendrix, right, or the Beatles. But what if they had an Instagram account? It's much harder. You're so connected with the people that you hold in high esteem. And I mean, like, what if George Washington had an Instagram account? It'd be much harder to glorify him and lionize him in the way that we have. So like moving forward, I just don't think we're going to be able to, when we know what our leaders just ate at Chipotle, it's going to be harder, you know.
I don't think it's going to disappear. It's going to change how it's done.
Yeah, it'll change.
I don't think you can you know,
it's a human inclination also. It's a human inclination.
I mean, there was a time when we taught like the kind of apocryphal stories about George Washington in school, right? Was the one with where when he was it's during the French and Indian War, right? Where he was acting as a scout for the British Army, and I think they're making this into a movie at some.
I believe Young Washington.
Young Washington. Yeah, I don't know whether it's going to be good or not, but this is apparently this is like a story that people used to be taught in school.
Yeah. We did an episode on it,
and like there's these like sharpshooters, these native shooters like who take shots, like a whole bunch of shots at him, and either and his like his shirt apparently was like full of holes, and he never got hit.
Never got hit, and he's a very large man, like 6'3", 4.
And afterwards, like this tribe, they want to surrender to him, because it's like they came to the natural conclusion that I don't know what god he worships, but he's clearly looking out for him.
Not the right one, yeah. He's doing better for him than ours are for us.
So
let's see. We can start whenever you're ready. We can check the chat too. We got quite a few chatters.
Yeah. I'm just about to scroll through this and some of this.
Yeah. Somebody said the Battle of Jumonville Glen, and Sam also might be thinking the Battle of Fort Necessity, but I was thinking the Battle of Jumonville Glen as well. We've done an episode on that, Battle of Jumonville Glen. It's also where Washington hires a local chieftain, and he says like, okay, I'll fight, we'll fight together. And then the local chieftain, when the battle's all done, the local chieftain says like, oh, is it cool if I do my thing now? And Washington's like, yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm being funny for people in the chat. Washington's like, yeah, that's cool. And the chief pulls out a tomahawk and like chops this guy's head off, basically, like hacks his brain out. And young Washington is like horrified by it for the rest of his life. It's something that's kind of swept under the rug now.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say he did it. I don't really think he did it. But all right, if you see anything in the chat you want to address, let me know. I'm going to start. I think we got, Coach Holtz gave us 2 super chats. Thank you very much, Coach. Shout out to B and Sam and the OG HOKC crew. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And shout out another $2 super chat. Shout out to the ladies of the night. That is true. We're pro ladies of the night here. Let's see. We've got Bama Deanna. We've got Jake Skywalker. We've seen Terry R in the chat. We've got Charles. What's up, Charles? Good to see you, man. Are there a lot of 304s in the chat? I don't think we have a lot of 304s in the chat. Sam is looking nice tonight, despite his choice of shirt. I think it's a nice shirt.
You don't like my shirt?
I like the shirt.
It's got hummingbirds on it.
Don't, Charles. You're coming for the wardrobe. I think you're not qualified.
You're going to be disappointed in my wardrobe.
Let's see what you're wearing, Charles. I just got the old barbershop shirt.
I am over at my. I don't have my full wardrobe with me right now because I'm over at my parents' house while they're on vacation.
He's on the road.
I'm on the road, so I packed a very small amount of clothes because I didn't want to worry about packing a lot of clothes, and I'm out of work this summer because I'm a teacher. So
no, if you don't need it, you don't need to bring it. Elite Super Grunt, what's up? Elite Super Grunt says the descendants of Alexander's army fought the Han.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to go look at what exactly. I mean, the descendants, maybe. I mean, yeah, because there were basically successor kingdoms that started in the kind of in that area, like the modern day kind of Afghanistan and further into Central Asia.
So some of there
were probably descendants. There were probably at some point in history descendants of like Greeks who fought against the Han Chinese, probably at some point in history. Now, how long you have to go to find that, or where, or when, is questionable, but I don't
know. Charles says, I'm blazing some Maui Wowie straight from Cali. Charles, I have no idea what you're referring to.
Nor do I.
Mark Kavitsky says the Khanate. You've talked about the Khanate before. Can you explain what the Khanate is for anybody that's not familiar with it?
Khanate? Depends on, again. So the Khan is kind of the title for the ruler of like a Mongol ruler, or not just Mongols. It's you see the term get used for also like the Cumans and even earlier groups as well. The Tatars and the very like it's the ruler of like a Central Asian nomadic people, right? Essentially king, but
Ravonanarc 579 says, okay, Corral deserves more subs. WTF. We agree. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yes, definitely sub if you're not already.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like the stream, subscribe. And even if you just click share and then copy the link, that counts as sharing it. So even just doing that would go a long way. I'm seeing the stream start to grow. So it's exciting. Mark Kavitsky says weapons are heavy before you are exhausted, then fresh troops are required. I think we'd agree with that. Conscripts are first sent in to wear down the enemy frontline forces. We've talked about that a little bit before.
It depends on the it depends on the individual battle and circumstance and the generals involved. But yeah, it was a pretty typical strategy that you would save your elite force for the kind of critical moment of the battle, right? So you would want to make sure that like the guys you could really count on in a fight you're going to save them until you need them, until you like need to send them in at the critical moment. So you have the kind of, a lot of times the opening rounds of a battle are going to be either with conscripted forces, mercenaries a lot. This is the role of mercenaries a lot. Yes. in battles. You know, there's always kind of a relationship between mercenaries and the people hiring them where they you know, if they didn't need to hire the mercenaries, they wouldn't do it, you know. But so they need them, but they also, like, if they die in battle, we don't have to pay them either.
True. Yeah, right. And they don't want them to be used by their enemy too, I'd imagine.
Yes, exactly. And it's always something that's kind of it's looked down on historically. Even today, quite honestly. There are mercenary groups today, to this day, that has not changed. Rise a
bit with Blackwater over the last 20 years, and it became it went through an iteration where I think it was more accepted. We had an influx of veterans coming home from the war that could, you know, utilize their skills doing that. But it's
and we're gonna go because the problem is the other thing that mercenaries almost always get used to do is do the things that you don't want to get caught having your regular guys doing.
You know, things that you don't want to
when you want to go into a tribal village and stir up trouble, you know, in order to like drum up a conflict or something. The mercenaries can go do that, and that's not our government who's involved in that, right?
And that's not conspiracy talk. That is actual.
That is done historically. That is not new to the modern world. That is the idea. You can have kind of plausible deniability, right?
If you are in denial of that, you cannot understand world history.
No,
like you have veiled your vision. Actually, an interesting point on that. This guy, you're referring to Mad Dog Mattis telling the Hoover Institute that he created this strategy. I'm not sure exactly what strategy, but you talk about Mattis being involved in the planning of Tora Bora. I've read every book that Dalton Fury's ever written. Sam actually, it's called a book called Killing Bin Laden. It's written by a former Delta Force officer who, when he got out of service, he started writing books, and this was his first book. None of the names are used, no tactics are disclosed, so he can divulge quite a bit of the story. And yeah, in a lot of ways, Tora Bora was the first time since maybe the hill tribes of Vietnam where we were tasked, our tier 1 operators were tasked with going into these mountain tribes and kind of getting them, who had been fighting against the Russians, getting the Mujahideen to work with them against the Taliban, which devolves into a whole mess. And if you want a real world example of what Sam and I are talking about with more ancient forces, where you hire these mercenaries, but you don't really know if you can trust them. That's what Tora Bora was with the Mujahideen, where they were hiring these guys, but a lot of it was just so they don't go fight with the Taliban, and it just devolves into this class,
this web of shifting loyalties, and that you're never quite sure.
It's amazing that the Dalton Fury talks about. He's at a very high. He's passed on since, but a very high security clearance, and he talks about government officials and even military officials coming in for the kind of pre-invasion planning of Afghanistan, right? So October 2001. And they were passing out this book called The Bear Went Over the Mountain about the Soviets invading Afghanistan, because virtually all of these people in positions of power knew nothing about Afghanistan and knew nothing about it being invaded or about the failures to invade it before. So it's just a really eye-opening, rather recent phenomenon where that's happened. I think Sam might have frozen up on us. But yes, Kill Bin Laden, if you haven't read it, highly recommend it. Great, great book. I don't know if Sam's still up there. Sam might have to reboot. I don't know. This has been a one-man show before, though. I'll carry on until Sam gets back. Let's see. Miyamoto Musashi. I'm going to wait till Sam gets back to address that. Though, Mojo, what's up, Mojo, by the way? You probably know this, but I did the boat oar fight, which is a great story. Miyamoto Musashi is this kind of warrior monk, and he goes back and... Sam back yet? And he lives in the woods, and he survives this terrible battle and decides he's going to be a duelist. He's like Japan's greatest duelists, and he agrees to meet another dueler. Maybe Sam will know about it too.
Did I disappear there? Was that just?
We got you back though. We got you back.
All right, we're good. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I think my chair rolled over a wire or something, and my computer decided it didn't like that for a minute. And
your eyes just went like semi-closed, and I was like, you seem like deeply in thought about what I was talking about. So I was like, well, we'll just wait for your answer.
No, my computer I think my screen got shut off or something, and I don't know. I'm back now, but I have no idea what you just said.
So really, there's kind of a two-part, not question, but statement from Mojo. First, he says Japanese samurais had a lot of duels.
It depends on the time period, but yes, once you get into kind of the Sengoku, it stops happening because the armies are too big to where duels aren't like your samurais are more your elite. Like your units are too large to kind of have it matter. The armies are too big. You're starting to get early professional armies. But yeah, earlier in history, it was common.
Really, the second part of that is Miyamoto Musashi.
Musashi.
I just don't know what time period he was in. I'm blanking.
So he is in the. I'm going to look that up because I want to give you an exact answer because he's at the tail end of the Sengoku era of the Sengoku.
And is he a proper samurai or was he more of a ronin? I got tore up in the comments on this episode. Oh, did I get torn up? It was a good episode, but I did an episode on the boat oar fight.
I do not think he was a
proper samurai.
A proper samurai? I don't think he had he was a traveling swordsman.
Right. He didn't have an overlord what was being.
I believe that's correct. I believe
he's confirming the hate in the comments for me. I guess I have some apologizing to do.
I believe he was not actually he was not a vassal to a daimyo. At least he was now he's a very important figure in Japanese history.
Another kind of cultural figure. He is
and he's the 67 duels that he won, those are confirmed by historic accounts.
And what was can you explain what he was doing? What
he was establishing him that he was in fact the best sword fighter in Japan.
His a brief backstory, he had survived this battle and then he kind of becomes a recluse in the woods. Basically, he goes full 80s karate movie.
Yeah, so the end of the kind of Sengoku era saw a lot of changes in Japan. This is actually where you start getting the move away from that kind of more traditional feudal society to the early modern. Because this is Miyamoto Musashi is he's born in 1583. And he was just 1583 to 1645, right? And so this is the Sengoku era, the Sengoku Jidai had kind of which is a warring states period in Japan. It's Japan's feudal. Sometimes called Japan's feudal era, but it's I don't know. It's a iffy to call it that. You'd got the kind of the introduction of the Portuguese had come. They had introduced firearms to combat, which had kind of massively changed things.
They were really the first European power that was allowed in, right?
Yeah, and by treaty they were the only one for a while.
Till Matthew Perry comes.
Mm-hmm. And and shortly after this, they actually kicked them out.
Right, that's right.
So during this time, actually, there was a lot of different Japanese places in Japan where people were converting to Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
There was a growing Christian movement in Japan. The Jesuits kind of don't handle things well in Japan, so that's part of what happens is the Jesuits do not have a great track record of
it ends with many being martyred, right? Many being crucified and things like that.
Yeah. That's, you want to talk about a movie that I don't like, a historic movie I don't like, is Silence. I thought that movie was garbage.
I've only seen the scene from that where they're being crucified like in the ocean and the water keeps splashing up.
Yeah, it's that movie is very
Crappy.
The movie is, oh boy, I'm trying to say this in a polite way, but I don't, maybe I just won't be able to say it in a polite. The movie is Jesuit propaganda.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's one group that has a lot of propaganda.
They created this movie to like really defend what was done, like what the Jesuits who made these decisions did. When I watched that movie, I was like, these guys apostatized. They were not like they apostatized, and they should not have.
And that's, if you don't,
and if they had actually just endured, I'm like, if they had just endured the torture like other like Christians in previous centuries had done, they might have actually won.
Real quick, also, if you're in the chat, you don't know who the Jesuits are. They are effectively a missionary arm of the Catholic Church, a missionary organization.
So the Catholic Church has several different orders of priests, right? The Jesuits are one. The Jesuits are they come out of Spain. They are very militant and very kind of provocative.
They're very ecumenical in nature. Like they're very culturally. They operate in ambiguity.
Weird. Yes. They're weird, and I'm sorry.
It doesn't mean I got lots of friends. I got lots of Catholic friends. It doesn't mean everything they did was bad. Like they've done some incredible things, but
they're also okay. They're also one of the reasons why this soils the relationship between Russia and Rome and the Roman Catholics.
I didn't know that.
Russia got the Jesuits did some scummy things in Russia, which really pissed off the Russians.
They do some really weird stuff too. Like it's just, you'll have to go read up on it if you're in the chat. You can, and there's lots of smoke where it can get lost. Like there's lots of conspiratorial smoke where you think, oh, that's not true, but where there's enough smoke for there to be fire, and they suffice to say, they just get up to some very, very odd behavior, even in the history of North and South America.
Yeah, they don't have a great track record in their missionary work, quite honestly. I'm just objectively speaking, like I can't think of a example of like.
Oh, there's no bigger critic of the Jesuits than Catholics as well. Like,
you're right, and they're still around though, which is kind of irritating. They've been
Pope was a Jesuit.
Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
But suffice to say, you don't like it was an instance of, I mean.
Yeah,
the Jesuits kind of fumbled the ball there, but the Jesuits are in the midst of this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how we got on this.
We're just talking about the kind of the insular nature of the Japanese. How it was like really only the Portuguese, and they kicked the Portuguese out.
Oh, we're talking about Miyamoto Musashi. Okay, I remember how we got from this. Anyway, so the end of the Sengoku kind of, you started seeing the kind of some of these changes in Japanese society, and some were not necessarily super happy about that. Musashi probably being one of them. I mean, he'd seen kind of the and he, this the more kind of a lot of his writings are about this kind of the more honorable, nature of combat and such. And I don't know. So it's but anyway. Regardless, I'm not a huge expert on Miyamoto Musashi. I kind of,
he's equal. He's not even equal parts, but he's warrior, monk, philosopher.
Yeah. So he writes, the Book of Five Rings, which is kind of a combination of like philosophy. It's like a combination of like philosophic and like a philosophy and military treatise.
With good stuff in it.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and but he also becomes one of the greatest practitioners of swordsmanship, certainly of his era, if not ever. Now, and so he develops a very famously developed this style using two swords.
Mhm.
Right, so this is kind of what he's best known for.
Two
So
shorter swords, to my understanding, right? Or
well, instead,
very,
so it's a tachi and a kodachi, right?
yeah,
So
one's longer, one's shorter.
One's longer and one is shorter. They're not. They're so a lot of times people just say katana to mean old Japanese swords. It's kind of become the catch-all term for Japanese swords, whereas at one point katana meant a certain type, like a certain length of sword. So a tachi is actually a little bit shorter than like an uchi katana, which is what people typically mean for katana.
Okay.
And then like longer than that, you've got like a nodachi.
How long are these, just for reference? Like a nodachi is how long?
Let's see.
5 feet, 4, something. They're pretty long.
I'm gonna look that up. How long is a nodachi?
And it kind of goes like those are swords that you would wield with two hands, right?
Yes, and even a normal katana is a two-handed sword.
Okay.
Right. So a typical nodachi measures 150 centimeters. What's that in? So 59 inches. So
5 feet. Almost.
Yeah. And it's a length that it's a military weapon, right?
Right.
At that length. Eventually, like they become they get a little bit smaller because they're to like an uchi katana is going to be more for like self-defense, right? And as a sidearm as well. I mean, swords in Japanese warfare as well as as Western warfare, right, are a sidearm primarily.
Yeah,
they're not your primary weapon in battle.
And there's different swords for different purposes, and different. If you're mounted, you might have a different type of sword.
But swords are a great general purpose weapon, and they're great for self defense. They're also, so that's why they also become very easily become a status symbol, right? They're expensive too. Like that's the other thing. Swords are expensive because they use a lot more metal than like a spear does, and metal being
labor hours into them as well. Sweat equity.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so Miyamoto Musashi establishing himself as kind of a legendary swordsman. He goes around dueling noted like masters, right?
Yeah.
So like these 67 duels he won are like against people who were reported to be good at fighting.
like you would say, like a sanctioned professional boxer today.
Yes.
Right, right.
And the most famous is against Kojiro Sasaki. Who Kojiro Sasaki is a figure that is no one's quite sure whether he actually existed or not.
Right.
It's a little bit. This is where Musashi and Kojiro Sasaki kind of blend mythology. There's a little bit of, a lot of Musashi's duels are there are records of these things, right?
And there was a lot of ceremony around them. It wasn't just like two dudes just showed up.
But Kojiro Sasaki is one of those like there's depending on who you ask, there's some historians who think it's like an amalgamation of people that's kind of used to bolster the myth of Musashi.
But either way, it seems like in the accounts, let's just say that he is real. It seems like he's held, even in contemporary accounts, is pretty freaking good.
Yeah. So he in order to irritate him, they set up he schedules a duel, right? In order to irritate him, he shows up late, and to insult him, he pulls out a wooden sword that he had made from a boat oar on the way to the duel.
And it's like quite a bit late, right? Like it's enough for everybody there is like kind of the crowd.
Like they're kind of wondering. They're kind of the crowd had dissipated. Like they're kind of wondering, is he going to show up? And then he also the reason he arrives late is because when he arrives and the duel starts, the sun is setting, and so he stands with the sun to his back to kind of give him an edge in the fight.
And by
it's very devious.
Gojiro is pissed.
Yeah, and he's angry. He's angry at this point, so he kind of goes in a little bit angrily and gets caught, and Musashi wins the duel.
But Musashi doesn't. He didn't have a sword. He uses this boat oar and he whacks him in
that he carved into a sword.
Chest, I've heard that he hit him in the heart. I don't know. It makes more sense to me he whack him in the head, but either way, pretty awesome.
Yep. And
I love how they're so well recorded too. Like, to your point, those are very well recorded.
Yeah, they were much more ritualized in Japanese history too. Duels between samurai. It was still a relatively rare thing.
Sure.
Right. So again, like, these are things they get kind of romanticized because there are very famous, like, accounts of duels. It's like seppuku, the ritual suicide, right? In Japan.
Oh, we gotta say self-deletion. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. I'll just say seppuku because
I hate doing it.
It's not gonna know what that is. But anyway, like, there are very famous examples of this in history, but it's probably a little bit like the media probably depicts it more often than it actually happened.
Yeah, it just makes for a good movie.
Yeah, makes for a good movie. And sometimes the reason people wrote stuff down is in fact most of the time the reason people wrote stuff down is because it was remarkable.
Yeah, that's why you have the Gospels.
Yeah, people didn't write down like their daily lives and their daily, like, or very rarely did they. Like, it's a very rare historic find when you get like a diary or something.
This notion of like daily vlogging is pretty new to us.
I mean, there were people that had diaries, and famous people might have biographers who followed them around.
Some of them are very dull. Some diaries are what you yes, they're like an Instagram reel where it's just like, I got some flour today, and then the next one is like the cow died, and that's pretty much it. Just
I believe Musashi, when he fought in the battle of, I don't remember if it was the Battle of Osaka or but yeah, he fought towards the very end of the Sengoku.
Mojo says he was at Osaka Castle.
I think that's correct. I would want to look that up to be sure, but I believe that is correct.
No, that Mojo's saying he visited Osaka Castle personally.
Oh, like you heard that at Osaka Castle?
I think while he was visiting, he says he was there in March.
Yeah, and I think that is correct. Like, it's that he was at that battle, but he was young at the time, right? And so he kind of because of his when you're born, he kind of missed a lot of the big battles of the Sengoku. So yeah.
This one Mojo throws down. I have no idea what he's saying here. Odo no.
Yeah. So the Sengoku era in Japan, Sengoku Jidai, Sengoku during Japan, it's a warring states period where the Ashikawa shogunate kind of has lost its authority. Japan, up until the relatively modern era, is kind of they have a system of government that's called a shogunate, right? And that exists in conjunction with the imperial family, right? There's the emperor, and the emperor theoretically is more of a religious figure in Japan for most of its history. There are certain time periods where that's not the case, but it's kind of they're a religious figure, and the shogunate is kind of the title appointed to the military leader, and it's a who are kind of the effectively the actual rulers of Japan, right? And so the Ashikawa shogunate had been ruling for, I don't know how long, I don't remember how long off the top of my head, but it was falling apart. They basically couldn't keep the regional lords in control anymore. And so there's a whole string of wars that get set off between these regional warlords called daimyo.
I was gonna say, is that a daimyo?
Yeah. That's the regional warlord. Yeah, daimyo. They're the daimyo. So they're feudal lords. Barons, counts, the same kind of thing that you would have in the West, right?
Do they run into trouble because the geography is so condensed? Like,
yes.
Okay, yeah. That's a genuine question.
That's one of the reasons why Japanese military history is so fascinating, because the geography of Japan just makes for some wild scenarios.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know what Japan looks like, right? Japan is this tiny island, and there's huge mountains everywhere, right? And there's like this huge mountains everywhere, and then there's a little bitty coastline where everybody lives.
And
You
then it's
know?
like subarctic at the north. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's literally that, but it's
Yeah.
and then very like
And tropical in
tropic,
the further south. Yep. And so it is very much like it's long and thin. There are only certain routes you can take to go anywhere. Like there's not a,
It's why we were so insistent on not invading in World War II. It was essentially impossible.
It would have been very difficult.
Mhm.
It's a tactical nightmare. I mean, you ask the Mongols.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And the Mongols did not fail at conquering anybody else.
Nope.
That's entirely true. But it's basically
They tried.
They tried twice.
Yeah, they tried twice.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Now they got unlucky both times, and they got hit by a big storm. Right?
Sure.
Right, which is the original origins of the term kamikaze.
Yes,
right?
Divine wind.
Divine wind, right? It was this for the storm that wiped out the Mongol fleet.
But it's like, listen, Mongols, that's like
they got
the weather.
Lucky, yeah.
You got to go out there. You got to win. You can't we can't blame the weather. We got to win the ball game.
But the second invasion, they did land a sizable army onto Japan and were defeated. This is one of the very few times when the Mongols were defeated.
They overran everything else, basically. Like they overran everything from Korea to Baghdad.
Yep, and it was it was a.
Do you know anything about the cowboy samurai that used forearms because of Oda Nobunaga? I guess samurai using guns.
I mean, yes, like so.
Sakamoto Ryomo, he says.
I do not know who that is, but yes, there were because of kind of fiction, there's this kind of perception that the samurai didn't want guns. Actually, in the beginning, the samurai, because they were the martial class and they were expected to master all forms of weaponry, they were the first to in fact adapt firearms into kind of their things that they had to learn to use. So you would have had entire units of samurai with guns. Now during the Sengoku, you didn't have revolvers yet. That's not you have matchlock rifles at best, and early cannons.
But did it become kind of, I don't know, in poor taste in their view, or what?
It later on it does, but even much later, like so. I'm trying to explain how this comes about. And we're going to go off this rabbit hole. So at this point, we're at this point we're going down this rabbit hole.
That's what we're here.
All right. So during the Sengoku, you didn't see this kind of like distaste for guns, because it was a warring states era. It was a era of massive battles, and so the samurai, they adapted guns and they used them. Right now, matchlock guns have a lot of limitations, right? So they're used in conjunction with other more traditional forms of weapons,
pike and shot,
pikes and bows, mostly, right? Like so long spears called yari. That's kind of the Japanese term for spear, and bows were also were like samurais using bows was kind of the main, was actually a lot of your earliest samurai were kind of primarily mounted archers.
I was going to ask that. Yeah. Okay.
Now, so what happens at the end of the Sengoku though is that, so I'm gonna go back to another comment that was there. So during the Sengoku, this kind of period of warring states, we're gonna get to this point, but the warlord who kind of is the most successful is Oda Nobunaga. And Oda Nobunaga was a good. He was a brilliant strategist, but he was ruthless, utterly ruthless, and he ends up conquering most of Japan, and enough to where basically he has enough locked down that he can force the rest of it to kind of submit to him. But he is assassinated. So he is assassinated by one of his retainers, Mitsuhide Akechi. So after Nobunaga is assassinated, two of his primary vassals are kind of end up taking power. So you get Hideyoshi Toyotomi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, right? And they both conquer, and they both basically they kind of wind up with equal amounts of Japan.
Split like north and south, or east and west, or
north and south-ish, right. but there's some distinctions there. But anyway, they're both vassals of Nobunaga, and they're both kind of claiming as they're conquering, it's like, we're avenging Nobunaga, right? And they're all kind of like trying to ignore the fact that this other guy's also avenging Nobunaga. Hideyoshi kind of wins out, he's the stronger of the two at this time, and Tokugawa kind of reluctantly submits to him, right? And so you get the very brief Toyotomi shogunate. They kind of basically, in order to kind of keep the peace, Tokugawa is given he is given very prominent positions within the government, but everyone's kind of like a little bit else kind of deeply suspicious of him, and they don't think he's gonna that he was another probable successor to Nobunaga. So it was like, that's one of the reasons. So Toyotomi, this is one of the main reasons why Japan invades Korea at this point. It's actually a lot of the reasoning for Hideyoshi to invade Korea was, if we don't use our military forces somewhere and conquer new territory for new people for other people to rule, we're gonna we're gonna go back. I'm gonna have to go back to fighting Ieyasu. Right. So it's
this town ain't big enough for the both of us.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the invasion of Korea ends very poorly. The Japanese lose. They are defeated by Admiral Yi Sun-shin, and it's by the time they kind of withdraw back to Japan, Hideyoshi is old at this point, and he dies shortly after. And there's a Ieyasu, in order to try to kind of keep him from rebelling, they make him one of the regents of the young shogun, right? So
gotta give him something.
Eventually, however, it still kind of falls apart. If you want a good series about this, they change the names, but if you have ever watched it's on Hulu, I believe it was on Hulu, Shogun, right? They're making another season of it too at some point.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. It is the guy that the main Japanese guy in that is Tokugawa Ieyasu, even though they changed his name. Because they changed his name in the actual novel, but it's the all of the names of people in that show, and it have basically real world have actual people that they're based off of.
Yeah.
And almost exactly. There's some historic things that are changed, but they
the change is very slight. It's like, instead of a movie about the founding fathers, we call this guy Tommy Washington.
It's a pretty good series. It's a little slow to start, I think. You really have to wait till the very end to get the payoff. And because it's very much like the beginning of the series is like the main character in the show, and it's based off a novel, is an actual historic character too. Was a I believe he was actually Dutch. I think they make him English in the show, but I think he was actually Dutch. A Dutch captain who kind of washes ashore on in Japan, and they're trying to basically like find a new way to Japan and trade with the Japanese, even though the Portuguese have a monopoly on trade with Japan, and so
because the Dutch were out there going,
yeah, they were trying, and then the Dutch, of course, are Protestant at this point, as are the English, so it's they don't feel bad about ignoring the Pope's treaty, and
doesn't mean a whole lot to them.
Yeah. So. But you watch this show and like the first like several up until really like the last episode, you're thinking like, man, everybody's being so like everybody's really persecuting this like Japanese lord. He's not doing anything bad. Like and then you get to the last episode and you realize, nope, everything that these guys believed about this guy was completely right. Like he was ambitious and cutthroat. And they were all terrified of him, and for a reason. And the reason they were the reason they were plotting against him so like vigorously was because they were scared of this guy, and rightly so.
And this is on Shogun, right?
Shogun.
We'll have some people that want to go check this out, myself included.
Yeah, it's good. It's a remake of. They actually made it was a miniseries that was made a long time, I think back in the 90s. I actually watched the original one way like on like somebody had recorded it on a VHS, and I watched it when I was young. But yeah, the most of the characters in that show actually are actual historic figures with their names changed. So, you know.
Surrender Monkey says, "Are you saying that?" Are you saying that Musashi was a great warrior, but his religion was wrong?
I don't know about that.
Sure,
I think he was. Were you talking about? I don't know, but I mean, Surrender Monkey was also saying like.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the first part. If there's a first part of this here, if you see it, let me know because I'm not sure.
No, I saw some of it. I will comment on it if you want me to, but I was going to choose not to comment.
Okay, we'll hold off for now. Then we're in deep enough waters as it is. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about this? Mojo says, in a duel against a guy with a big scythe, but like a chain with a blade on it, Musashi started spinning his sword to confuse the other guy. And then he moved backwards and went for Musashi. And I guess Musashi. Oh, he says Musashi threw the sword.
So you're probably the weapon you're probably talking about is Kusarigama, which is a it's a kama, which is like a hand sickle type weapon with a chain attached to it, and there's a weight on the other end of the chain.
Let me bring
cool weapons, Kusarigama.
Let me see. I'll find it, and if you keep talking, I'll bring it up.
I'm trying. So, Kusarigama. If you look up that's I suspect that's what they're talking about. Is a Kusarigama?
This here?
Yeah, that's a Kusarigama.
Okay, got it.
I've seen some cool demonstrations with one. They're pretty cool. Chain weapons are one of those interesting things where like they're not terribly practical.
That doesn't look practical.
But one of the things that makes them so fun to learn to master is because if you can master a weapon like that, it's like means you're really good because you've mastered something that's kind of inherently very difficult to use and very dangerous to use.
Is there something you said for the unorthodox nature of it too, where it's like, well, it's going to be hard to defend against this thing because nobody knows how to defend against it.
That's correct, right? So chain weapons you can do tricky things with them. But that also mean like the problem is you can also have it spin back and hit yourself too if you lose control.
That's what I'm worried about.
So it's a whether it's Kusarigama like nunchucks, other types of chain weapons, a 3-section staff, a even a flail, right? I mean, it's like they're weapons that are like, obviously these did exist in history and were used in combat, but they weren't used a lot because these things tend to be notoriously very difficult to use and you run the risk of possibly injuring yourself if you're not careful. You can also, like, a chain weapon is great. You can use it to kind of tie up your opponent and confuse them, but it also like means that you might lose your own weapon if you're not careful. Like you might get it snagged on something and lose it if you're not really good, right?
There's a certain pragmatic like risk reward ratio that has to go into every weapon, it seems.
Yeah. So Kusarigama tend to be you see them in ninjutsu. So they're
and like Sasai or Sai too. Sai like Raphael had the ninja turtle.
Yeah. That's another. It's not just a ninjutsu weapon, but yeah, it's also a ninjutsu weapon.
Speaking on this, actually, Elite Super Grunt says the samurai had a sword that had more of a curve on it before the katana.
Yes, the earlier Japanese swords were like you can see like progressions of Japanese swords go from the curve like was much more so at one point to kind of becoming the standardized kind of katana later. It depends on the time period, but yeah, the earlier Japanese swords were more curved. Length also varies a lot in the time period as well. The thing about Japanese swords, though, is this kind of long and thin. These long and thin swords is done out of necessity because there's not a lot of iron in Japan, and a lot of the iron they have is sifted out from this certain type of sand in the bog, right? In the bogs there, right? They don't have iron mines in the same sense that like they had in Europe. They don't have good like big deposits of iron, so iron was very rare and very low quality.
This is why it has to be. It's folded on itself.
Yeah, that's why they developed their metallurgy to this kind of this insane extent of like this folded steel. It was not just it was a technology born out of necessity. They did not have the same quality of iron that they had in Europe. Their iron was a much lower quality, so they had to find ways to refine it and develop it much more intensely in order to get swords of that were usable. Right? Is
a Japanese sword more brittle than a medieval European sword?
Yeah, because they're thinner, right? I mean,
sure. I just didn't know if the quality of iron really played into that at time.
It does as well. That's the main reason is that they're thinner.
Yeah.
Now, the reason you do the folded steel is to make up for that defect, right? And it does to an extent. There's a constant debate online between the longsword and katana people, and I don't want to get in too much into that. If you like myself are a sword enthusiast, which I am, and I am an enthusiast of both Western and Eastern swords. So if you spend any amount of time on sword YouTube,
on sword
channels, I'm sure there are people in this chat who do. I have in various points in my life. There's lots of ongoing debates between which is superior, the longsword or the katana. I don't think it's typically is a fair debate because it's not a fair debate, and the reason it's not a fair debate is because we've talked about this. I've talked about this a little bit on this channel, but up until firearms, the weapons technology is always trying to adapt to armor technology, not the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Armor technology is generalized. Weapons technology is specific.
Specialized, yeah.
Right? So the weapons become the weapons are developed in order to counteract the armor and not just armor, but also like fighting techniques of whatever time period they're in. So if you take like a medieval, like a high medieval longsword and a Japanese katana, it's like, first of all, the time periods are very different. And the other big problem is the armor is very different. They did not have, now they had armor in Japan. Obviously, samurai wore armor, but you didn't have the same kind of metal armor that you had in Europe. And for the reason is the iron was a lot more scarce.
What did they have, like lacquered bamboo?
Lacquered bamboo. They had like the waves of like interweaving silk too to make armor.
Oh right,
they also used wood, right? Like it was they used other things for armor, but it was not the. It's not metal armor. It's not steel. It's not a steel plate, right? So it's not that it's not effective armor. It's that it's not iron armor. It's not steel. Yeah. They had like they're at various time periods in Japan. You see limited instances of more metal armor, but it's rare because again, it's just the physical realities is there's only so much iron in the ground. Or in this case, in the sand that they have to refine out of this type of iron sand, you know.
Just a real quick question too: how is this paid for? Is it like similar to? Is it like medieval knights where Lord pays for it, or is it like they have to finance this armor themselves?
So it's a feudal system, and again, and this is it depends on the time period. Like. It's not universal necessarily, but if you were a samurai in service to a lord, right, you get a stipend basically to which to kind of supply your house with servants and as such. And part of that is you are responsible then for training and equipping yourself and sometimes also other people as well. Okay. Like a certain number of other people as well. In a very similar, it's a similar system to what happens in feudal Europe.
I was going to ask.
The difference is the you don't necessarily like it's a little bit more centralized in Japan typically than it is in the West. Whereas like in order to basically a knight might be given like land of his own with people with serfs on his own land that and he has like a lot of responsibility. That doesn't like it's not like you necessarily have your own land as a Japanese samurai, right? You might other than your own household, you receive basically it's like you're paid, but the way the currency worked a lot of times was it was based off of rice, right? It was so you would have a certain amount of the rice crop of your the fief that you were a part of, right?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but it's not.
They don't have the land to pay you with. Like it's not like Europe where we have land we can give you. We just don't have the land in this instance, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a different system. It's a similar system, but it has some differences, right? And there's not like more land you can go conquer in Japan. Like you have these islands, and there's these tiny islands. It's not like, yeah. So yeah,
it's a very finite resource. Mojo says Kojiro discarded his scabbard when Masashi was fighting. He had a headband on that was split by Kojiro. I've read this. How apocryphal do you think that is?
I think I don't know. It's hard to say. It's possible though. I mean, it's possible that's a detail just to show you that Kojiro Sasaki was really good
and how close they were. I get it. No, I get it. When I was researching that episode, that was one of the ones that I was like, I don't. But there's
a lot of it's possible. There are. I mean, the whole idea of Kojiro Sasaki is a little bit questionable in history too. It's like nobody's quite sure who it.
Well, they know we had the boat or fight. It's just
they know the fight happened. The exact details of the fight are some of the details are known, but there's some question historically as to who was Kojiro Sasaki. Right. Actually, like is that because yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. We've got Shogun is the warlord, basically, of the emperor. I think that's kind of what you were.
Yeah, it's the military leader. The emperor is the religious leader, essentially. Because by Japanese mythology, the shogun the emperor is descendant of the god. It's an unbroken line to their gods, right? It's Amaterasu. I believe it's Amaterasu.
We've got Mojo mentioning an arquebus.
Yes, that is the arquebus that's the type of guns that were used that the Portuguese imported into Japan.
Especially, they're just kind of like portable little shoulder cannons, right? Like,
yeah, they're early matchlock rifles. They are obviously they're effective, but they're not the same level of effectiveness as later firearms become. Even flint, like even the change from matchlock to flintlock is huge.
It's huge
historically.
And then from muskets to a rifled barrel is just, oh man, it's hard to quantify.
Now, one of the things that Oda Nobunaga pioneered was he pioneered a tactic in Japan of using a line of 3 people with like you'd have a set of 3 people with rifles with these arquebuses, right? And one person would fire while one person was firing, 2 people were reloading, so that you could maintain a constant volley.
Yes.
Right. And he used this to great effect during his war with the Takeda. There's another, which was a powerful rival clan. And the Takeda were known for having incredible cavalry, and so he developed this system of this line of arquebuses to basically massacre the Takeda cavalry.
They didn't have any comparable tactic to this.
Well, they knew about firearms, but these guns were so primitive. They said, yeah, he's gonna he's gonna kill a bunch in the first volley. Right, but then we're gonna run them over, right? Because like that was the plan, right? And it's like, but Nobunaga figured out this way he figured out this kind of staggered line to create the constant volley, and it used it to great effect.
Let's see, you might like this one, but I got to read it. There was a time in France where not even I guess I could say breastplate would save you from the Brits burning you at the stake. And he says,
It's a Joan of Arc joke, is what he says later. Right?
That's pretty clever, Surrender Monk. That's pretty clever.
Sure.
Question for both on the panel: how believable is the Tom Cruise samurai film?
That's another. Okay, Last Samurai is another one I really want to watch because I love that movie.
You haven't seen it?
You haven't? No, I've seen it.
Oh, you're saying you want to watch it?
I want to watch it again. Yeah, we gotta watch it again. I love that movie. It's great. I think it's a great example of a movie that is not historical.
Yeah,
it's set in a historic time period, and it does a great job of capturing the spirit of that time period, which is the Meiji Restoration, right?
And the American spirit of that time period.
Yes.
You have this damaged soldier that comes over here because of the Sand Creek massacre. It's great. It's brilliant.
It's a great movie.
It is.
Now there are real historic figures. There are some real historic figures in the movie, and there are some that are kind of based off of. So they're
like amalgamations.
Yeah. So the main guy, the titular Last Samurai, right? The last samurai. If you Google who is the Last Samurai, a lot of times you'll see it'll come up with oh my gosh, no, why is my mind breaking?
If you give me the name, I can put it on the screen too.
No, but I'm trying to. Now it's okay. Oh, okay.
Saigo
Takamori, right? Yeah, is oftentimes called the Last Samurai, and he's the character. He's the character that I'm so bad at actors, but the main Japanese guy is based off of Saigo Takamori.
Check this buck out right here. Check this out.
Yeah. But Saigo Takamori, Saigo Takamori did lead a rebellion against the Satsuma Rebellion or the Boshin Wars.
This would line up with that time period as well. Yeah, 1877.
At the end of the Tokugawa shogunate like lasts for a couple hundred years, right? And or not, I don't know, a couple hundred years, but lasts for a while. I'm getting late. I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
So
it existed though. During the time
it existed. It ends, and you get what's called the Meiji Revolution, followed by the Meiji Restoration, right? The Meiji Revolution is after the coming of the black ships which force Japan to open its ports again. They had become extremely isolationist prior to this. The Matthew Perry's attack, right? Like it kind of really destabilized things in Japan.
He's talking about, like everybody here probably knows, he's talking about a naval admiral, not the Friends character. R.I.P.
It very much destabilizes things in Japan. The Tokugawa shogunate falls apart, and you get a civil war in Japan, and they're around the two main sides of it are the pro shogunate forces, and then the sides that are supporting the emperor. And they want to basically reinstate the emperor as the not just the basically religious ruler of Japan, but as the actual ruler of Japan.
Is this kind of struggle that showed in the movie between like progression and regression?
So this whole like there was a violent civil war that happened that like very bloody, very tumultuous. That ended with the Meiji, the Meiji faction, the Meiji forces are victorious. But after after their victory, they start to kind of, the samurai find that during the Tokugawa shogunate, there had been these kind of, you had seen this shift kind of that had turned the samurai had become very kind of irrelevant in force in Japanese society, and in fact were deeply resented by the kind of the other classes of people. Japan is a Confucian society. Like they're organized based around Confucian principles, and a Confucian like social order, and so the samurai are a kind of class within that social order that has certain rights and privileges, but their rights and privileges kind of stop making sense in this new government, and this new government is trying to modernize things. Confucianism actually places merchants as the lowest rung on the social ladder. I don't know if anyone knew that or not, but like merchants are below farmers in Confucian social hierarchy.
So these samurai are well above them.
Well above that.
Yeah.
But what's kind of happened in the Meiji, the opening of Japan has led to a whole bunch of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see this kind of, there's a reinterpretation of their society, a move away from those kind of really traditional Confucian ideals. And the samurai are very resentful of this, right? They don't
it's a revenge of the nerds situation. I've always thought,
in a way, but it's only, but you can't help but feel bad for the samurai too, because they've lived their entire life in this order. They don't know anything. They don't know what to do.
And the idea that in Revenge of the Nerds,
the idea that they would have to go out and do something other than be a samurai, like that's an insult. Like I'm of like a distinguished line of samurai, right? Like that I would degrade myself by going and getting a job.
Sure,
like, is unthinkable.
But don't they kind of take this? It's like, well, I guess not a degradation in their view, but they're they're a hammer with no nail. So aren't they kind of viewed as bullies after a while, or kind of ne'er-do-wells?
Yes. And so, and a lot of them end up becoming kind of bullies and ne'er-do-wells and drunks, and, you know, and because they refuse kind of to adapt to the time. Many of them do, not all of them, but many do. And so the Meiji government starts kind of passing laws against the samurai, which ultimately leads to a rebellion. It's actually there's several rebellions, but the biggest one is the Boshin Wars. So Takamori Saigo, right, was one of the three main figures behind establishing the Meiji government, but he ends up basically rebelling and becomes he leads a rebellion in Satsuma, and they're defeated. You know, his rebellion never gets off the ground. They're like it's something like, you know, they just get destroyed by the much larger and more modern and better equipped Imperial Army. But it kind of a lot of the public, like Takamori Saigo is a popular hero. Like, he was a heroic figure. That's why he's called the Last Samurai. I mean, like, you don't call someone the Last Samurai if you're in.
Are they kind of alluding to the thermopoliaic nature of the Last Samurai then? Because in the movie he says he tells them about Thermopylae.
They all die. Like the battle that's based off of, yes, all of the die. Now the army that they had, so the battle in the movie is there's an actual battle that's based off of. Now, at that time period, they were using guns. This idea that they had rejected guns is kind of not real.
The samurai on Tom Cruise's side.
They used guns. They had a quasi modern army. Now they also they had an army that was kind of mixed with modern. Like, they had some modern weaponry and some non-modern weaponry.
But it's very clearly a writing device to delineate this kind of purity of the old samurai culture. Yeah,
because especially shortly. And the movie kind of blends some things in the time period too, right?
As does Braveheart. I'm very forgiving with these things.
So there is this kind of like clampdown on the samurai, though, which ultimately leads to, for the most part, the samurai kind of being abolished eventually.
Aren't they? They're no longer allowed to carry their swords or something?
Yeah,
like that?
That's one of that. That is a thing that happens. Is there's the anti-sword laws.
Come and take it.
And there is a huge amount of Japanese literature and entertainment that is set in this time period.
Yeah, it's very
huge amount,
like our Old West is.
Yeah, but like from the Meiji Revolution to the I mean, it could leads into basically early imperial, like modern imperial Japan, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a hugely romanticized period of time in Japanese history. The fall of the Tokugawa shogunate to, you know, up into like huge.
You have an entirely different Japanese military ethos going into World War II without this. I would kind of posit.
Yep. How many? Yeah. It's like how much romantic fan fiction is there based off of members of the Shinsengumi, right?
It'd be the same.
I think the answer is a lot.
A lot, right? If you look the same for any Old West character, Wyatt Earp or whatever.
Yeah. Like. And the Shinsengumi was a small elite but ultimately doomed unit of samurai working for the Tokugawa shogunate during the Meiji Revolution.
It's unfortunately hard in history to be small, elite, and not be doomed. There's a recurring theme.
They were very successful for a long time.
Oh yeah, I mean, lots of these forces were hundreds of years for many of these forces, but it ends up kind of. I don't want to say all the time, but it's a dangerous place to be small and elite. It seems like in history. Surrender Monkey says Tom Cruise is a space cadet, God-fearing weirdo. Any thoughts on that? Scientology's theology is certainly.
I mean, the guy's crazy for sure, but he's a great actor. I can't deny that.
And his stunts are legit.
It's like there's a lot of things you could say about Tom Cruise, but bad actor isn't one of them.
Not one of them. He's a good stunt man. He does his own stunts. He's a good.
He's completely nuts.
Oh, he's crazy. Dangerously crazy.
But the reality is that he is one of the best actors of our era. Like
of our era. Yes.
Oh, for sure. Just he's had a lot of amazing performances.
Mojo says Yasuki was
yeah. So there is a black samurai, right? Yasuki, yeah. I'm not a whole lot is actually known about him, but yes, it was a guy who was escaped from a slave ship, right? Washed up on Japan, ends up becoming a samurai in the court under Oda Nobunaga. He is a character in the latest Assassin's Creed game, which I have nothing good to say. I don't like Assassin's Creed games anyway, but I have nothing good to say about that game because that game got so that game pissed off the Japanese.
Oh, I don't do that.
Enough that they almost took legal action against legal action to the point that they were going to ban the game in Japan. Like there was a movement to do that because that's how bad it was. Like they were because there's a scene where you go into a famous temple in Japan and you go and murder a bunch of monks and such. And it's it's a very famous and
you wouldn't want to have the Catholic equivalent of that or
and they actually
Vatican.
And in the game it's exactly replica of the actual place, which the Japanese government claims was done without the permission of any of the ministry in Japan they have a ministry of cultural
if it's Japan saying that, I'm going to say okay. If it's the U.S. government saying that, and no offense to our U.S. government overlords, but I feel like the American tactic to that would be see how it sells.
The Japanese actually really care about it bombed too.
The American. That's kind of my point. Is the Japanese would have maybe a firmer line that they're willing to draw. Where America, I think we're going to say, we'll see how it sells, and if it bombs, then we're going to get mad about it.
It's actually then they get bombed, and part of it got bombed. It bombed because people were rightly really irritated,
incensed about
some of the cultural portrayals of things. It's these are some of the and they did things like that. I guess you as this character can have an affair with a person who's an actual is someone in actual history who has actual history and descendants and
oh, in this movie it's like an American video game in this particular version you can have an affair with Betsy Ross. It's hey, come on,
it's the kind of thing that it's shocking to me that nobody at EA was smart enough to see this coming, or they just didn't care. But it's whatever.
All right, we're getting close to the finish line, but I thought Sam would want to address this.
I'm playing a lot of Mountain Blade Bannerlord right now. That's what I'm playing right now. I actually reinstalled Bannerlord after the first. After Mountain Blade came up and I think it was the first stream we did together.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I showed you it the other day. Mount and Blade, not Mountain Blade.
Sorry,
it's Mount and Blade. Yeah, and Bannerlord is the sequel to the original Mount and Blade.
Oh yeah, okay. I remember this.
Yeah, I was showing you the other day. But it was they released an expansion for Mount and Blade, which added naval combat. Which is pretty good. I think the expansion actually added a lot of not just the naval combat, but it added a lot of cool features and quality of life stuff and changes to the game that made the game a lot better. And now I'm also playing. At this point, I'm playing a modded out version of the game. So, which Brandon won't know what that means, but I
know what modded out means. You put modifications on it. You say that about guitars.
I guess that's true. But yeah, Mountain Blade Bannerlord's what I've been playing a lot of recently.
We'll have to do some game stream on here to show you. You can come on and show everybody how it's played.
I will. Geez, I'm because people asked. I'm pulling up my list of games on Steam, and then I'll tell you all what I actually play.
I knew we had to save that question for you.
Sure, I'll answer. I don't mind. I'm not. For the most part, I'm not embarrassed.
Oh, you're the subject matter expert here.
I do play a lot of video games. I used to do miniature wargaming as well, but the game I used to play kind of post COVID really took a hit, and the community took a hit, and I haven't. I don't really play. I don't play anymore, and it's also an extremely expensive hobby. We're going to sort by.
Surrender Monkey says Chivalry 2. I rocked that.
I never played Chivalry. That's the APM requirements are too high on stuff like that for me.
Elite Super Grunt says the one-on-one duels in Bannerlord are cool.
Yes, I do. They do a lot of cool stuff in Bannerlord. It's a pretty good game. It's a great sandbox. It's a great sandbox game. My number one game in terms of hours is Stellaris, which is a 4X grand strategy game in a space exploration. I love that game. My second most played game, I'm a little embarrassed about this one, is Lost Ark, which is a Korean MMO that I played a lot of when it was first released in America.
Nice.
And then I have not played that one in quite some time. And then we got Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. That's another classic. Age of Empires 2 is a 20-year-old game now. I mean, it's more than that. Jeez. But and then I have Rome Total War 2. That's the other one. Guild Wars 2. That's the MMO that I still play, is Guild Wars 2. Although Guild Wars 3 has been announced now. I'm looking much forward to that. Then we got Mountain Blade Bannerlord. We've got other stuff. Baldur's Gate 3. I played a lot of that. Although it's funny, as much as I've played Baldur's Gate 3, I actually don't like it now. I've kind of come to the conclusion that after I played a lot of it is I actually there's things about it there's things that were really great about that game, and there were things that were I think there were flaws that got glossed over. Age of Empires 2 is one of the best strategy games of all time. It still has an active pro scene, which I kind of follow sometimes. I don't play the game so much anymore, but I do occasionally follow the professional scene because I've been following watching these players for so long that I keep doing it.
Surrender Monkey says Killing Floor 2. I have 2,500 hours plus on that.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Killing Floor 2. I also hate Killing Floor 3, I guess he says.
Let's see what else I got on here. I've got Mountain Blade Warband, which was the predecessor to Mountain Blade Bannerlord. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. A lot of hours on that. I love that game. I love the entire Armored Core series. It's a giant robot fight. It's a giant robot game.
Well, I got.
I am a.
Oh yeah.
I am a huge. I love giant robots. I love mecha anime. I love mecha shows, movies. I give me a giant robot. I'm happy.
I don't like small robots.
Yeah. Giant robots are where it's at.
Small robots, dude.
And Armored Core 6. I think Armored Core 6 came out in the same year as Baldur's Gate 3, and I think it was actually significantly better. But it got a little bit overshadowed. It did well enough that I'm hoping that they're going to make more again, because they revived the series. I love the Armored Core series.
Titanfall 2.
Yeah, most of my video gaming is either in strategy, or either strategy games, or they are RPGs, right? Pretty much just those two genres. I don't typically play I don't play shooters. I don't play I guess I do play some action games, but RPGs and strategy games are my main
Do you
things.
play Mr. Prepper?
No.
I do not. I do not know that one. Surrender Monkey. Titanfall 2.
I do not like survival games. That's the whole genre of modern gaming that I just can't stand are survival games. I think survival games are like the worst thing. One of the worst thing, not the only worst thing that's happened to gaming in like video gaming. It's one of the worst things that's happened to video games in the last terrible video gaming trend. And I'm sure there's people who love survival games in this chat. I can't stand them.
We're about to find out.
I blame survival games for killing MMOs.
What's an MMO?
Massively multiplayer online RPG. Okay. I'm abbreviating, but yeah, it's not the only thing that killed MMOs, but it's no, I can't stand survival games.
Stalker 2.
Sounds like a survival game, so I'm
fair enough. It does
never not something I've played.
If you guys have any more games, throw them in the chat now. I'll submit them for Sam's approval. Serena Monkey says, just play it. See, the thing about Sam, I don't you can't tell Sam to just play it. He'll never.
I'm very particular with what like video games are what it's my leisure activity. I do not play things because other people tell me to. I play things I want to play them.
I am too stupid.
I won't play horror games. I can't do horror stuff. I can't watch horror movies either. Like I just can't do it. I'm not into horror. I joke my real life is horror enough. I've lived through enough horror myself that I don't need to have horror in my entertainment.
We have Red Dead Revolver from General Lee. I saw you play Red Dead something.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2. I played I never actually played the campaign of that. I played the online version, the kind of online one, because my roommate at the time really wanted me to. And he was very much you'd have. I would say that you would have liked him, Brandon, but he was kind of an acquired taste sometimes.
Well, people say
he was very into Old West stuff. You know, I still chat with him every so often. He's a good guy. He was really a good guy. It was a good growing up experience probably for both of us to be roommates though, because I think he learned some things having to live with me and kind of in more of a real world kind of like, okay, I got all right.
It's different when you live with somebody. That's for I've had roommates.
And you know, he grew up very much in a different socioeconomic bracket than I did. And I think that there were some things that he did not realize were associated with his socioeconomic bracket that were not like, these are things that normal people have experiences of. You know,
but so the younger you can learn that, the better.
It's good to learn that, because that's true no matter who you are, right? It's because if you there's you know, it's not easy to broaden your horizons, and you do have to kind of it's not always comfortable, right? There's some growing pains associated with that, but it's a good thing ultimately. It makes you a better person.
Yeah, in general, yeah. I'm not the best at it, but
yeah.
If I didn't open my horizons, we wouldn't be live streaming right now. So I try.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you guys have any more questions, toss them in the chat and we'll start. We're already at 2.5 hours. That means it's like 12:30 here. That went by fast for me. I thought that was fun. But I didn't realize it was 12:30 already. But Sam and I both stay up pretty late, but still.
Yeah, I am right now anyway.
Well, you don't have school, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm not working right now, so it's kind of like, well, that's
I'm just kind of
I don't have any. I'm just doing whatever.
I'm from a real like farm area too, so it's like you sleep in past 7 a.m., everyone's like, well, why'd you sleep in so late? And so it was tough growing up there. Now I like that I can wake up when I want to.
See, I am actually, I know this is a horrible thing, right? But I'm actually a morning person, technically.
Ugh.
I actually feel great when I get up at like 5 in the morning, and then I like have like a couple hours before I have to interact with anybody. Like that's when I feel the best. That's when I feel the best.
Really good if I'm like traveling. If I have something to do, then I feel really good. If I like have to go do something immediately, like 7 in the morning, we have to wake up at 5.
See,
I could do that.
I'm this like unique. I'm this horrible combination though of like I'm naturally a morning person, but I'm also a very slow waker upper. Right? Like I need that first hour to like not be around other people, because if I have to immediately wake up and go be around people, I am not my best self.
I'm certainly. I either need this shot of adrenaline and I can go do the travel or something real quick, but I've had most of my jobs in my life have required me waking up at like 5:30 in the morning or something, and I hate that.
My father is the same way. My father is a wonderful, deeply compassionate, great man. But not in that first hour of when he wakes up.
I can't blame him a bit.
I tell you what, growing up, we all do that. Like, you want to ask dad something, you want to wait at least an hour, probably like an hour and a half, until after he's woken up, because you ask him that first hour, the answer is almost always going to be no.
I had this instance last week where I realized I was turning into my dad because I woke up I took a nap in the afternoon. I woke up and it was like 9 or something, like 8:30. And my dad's done this my whole life. He would go to bed, take a nap, and then wake up and think it was the next morning, right? And I just thought like, oh, there must be an eclipse outside, I guess, because it's dark at 9 in the morning. Oh, well, none of my business. And just carried on with my day for like an hour. Yeah. I really did. And then at like 10 o'clock at night, I was like, wait a second. Like, it took me a long time. I had like 2 cups of coffee. I was really just operating under the assumption, like, probably an eclipse. No big deal. It'll clear up.
I got my puppy down here sleeping. She's ready to go to bed anyway. She's tuckered.
Is she gonna need any more potty breaks before?
They have a dog door here.
Oh, they have a dog door. Yeah, I live in an apartment, so
they can go out whenever they want. And
well, we want to say thank you very much to Surrender Monkey for hanging in with us, because Surrender Monkey's in the UK, so it's like, dude, like 6:20 and 6:30 in the morning for him. So it is. He's a stalwart supporter. And anything else you want to cover, Sam, before we hop out of here?
No, I think we're good.
We're going to be back later this week. At some point, we're going to talk about Alaska. I've done some Alaska episodes. Sam's family is largely, I don't know if they're literally.
My mother was at least raised in Alaska, so
we've got lots of firsthand.
I can tell you my Alaska stories.
And we're going to talk about really kind of the Russian diaspora into Alaska and the Orthodox diaspora from Alaska outward. So they're all kind of, that's the way Alaska is. You know this, but it's like, well, it's all kind of like, it's unique for America because it's all like mixed into one thing, the expansion of Russia as a state and the Russian Orthodox Church. And they both kind of duel in Alaska and work together in Alaska. It's a really interesting and unique place. So it'll be cool to cover that. Okay, Sam, we'll give you one more gaming take here. The problem with PC versus real gaming consoles, you guys get unlimited time and specialized servers to complete games, and we don't. I don't know what that means.
I'm a PC gamer, so I'm gonna.
We'll cover that one another night. Yeah, we're also going to cover this one another night. Surrender Monkey. Love the Russians, hate the leadership. We're going to postpone that one. We'll talk about that another night. We'll be here till 3 in the morning Texas time. But anything else you want to add? Any sprinkles on top of the cake?
No, it's good. It's good.
All right. Well, you guys go check out the last episode. I'll have another compilation out day after tomorrow, hopefully. The next episode is going to be the Battle of Los Animas Canyon. We're going to go into Victorio's War, which is going to be really exciting. We've got shorts coming every day. The merch is up now, so go grab yourself a t-shirt, a coffee mug, a sticker, posters, all that good stuff. Go check out my last live stream with Taylor Weber. He came on and gracious enough to come on, a MMA fighter who helped break down some of the history behind martial arts in the Old West. And yeah, like I said, we got more live streams coming up this week, and I think that's everything. If it's not everything, I'll make a post about it later. But thank you all for all the support. Sam, thank you so much for coming by as usual. Everybody is a big Sam fan in the chat, that's for sure. And
I appreciate it. My ego appreciates it too.
Well, that's why I'm here as well. So thank you again to everybody. We will see y'all soon. And thanks again. God bless. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.